Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Truth Will Set You Free show, brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Linda Diane Wattley, and I'm just trying my best to calm down because you know how I feel about my guests. Hollie Thubron, right? Thubron,
but it's close.
Say that again.
Thubron.
Okay. I don't know why I'm going to call you Thubron. Okay. I am so fascinated with this young lady. She is so universal. I can't fathom how somebody so young is so empowered. She is such a giving person. She is so open and authentic. And even though she don't say it, she is in for world peace. She is in for people to be at a better place. She gives so much. She's a songster. She writes songs. She writes novels. She's been writing novels, she said, since she was a little girl. She does a lot of things. And she also introduced me to something that we'll talk about later called Miscarriages of Justice Organization. That's what I'm saying. She is using all her life energy. She don't call herself an entrepreneur. I can't imagine her having a 9-to-5 job. She seems so free-spirited. She has so much to give, and her music is so authentic. Her voice is so angelic that you wouldn't believe that she wrote a book here recently called Insane, because she loves and she's intrigued with serial killers. Look at her, serial killer. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for saying all that wonderful, really lovely stuff.
I mean, you know, because I'm a grandmother and I'm a mother, it's like when you see a child develop to the capacity that you have, and it looks like you did on your own. Did you have anybody that kind of helped mold you through life? I just don't sense anybody around you. I remember in your book, you mentioned Becca, your sister, but it's like nobody else had any contribution to your life. How did you evolve into such this amazing giving person?
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I definitely have a very supportive family. My dad's a motivational speaker, so he's always been very much like all about empowerment and stuff. And my mom's been the same, always been really, really supportive of everything. So, I mean, one thing that my dad always taught me was if you want to do something, if you want to be the best at something, you can be, as long as you're willing to put in the effort. So once I enjoy something, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go as far as I can with that, rather than just kind of sit in my room and do small things and kind of go with the flow, because I want to push my bounds as much as possible.
So what's a typical day for you? I just can't imagine you with a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, neither can I. I'm actually on a gap year at the moment. I'm going to university in September. So actually at the moment, my days are pretty relaxed, pretty chilled out, which is I'm savoring for as long as I can before I go to uni. Yeah, I mean, the idea of a 9-to-5 job is just terrifying to me. So I'm really, really hoping that never comes around.
And I also noticed that you write music, you sing music, but you also allow yourself to be available to write music for other people and to actually sing in their background. Is that pretty much what you do?
Yes, yeah. So I'm a singer-songwriter myself, but I also advertise as a songwriter and a singer. So if people have kind of like, you know, ideas that they want to get into a song, then I'll just kind of like help that, because I just think obviously a lot of people are singers and songwriters, but I think I want to be a part of that and be able to help people express something that maybe they can't do as well, if that makes sense.
And like you were saying, you want your music to cause people to think.
Yeah, I think that's something that's consistent throughout, obviously with my book and also with my music, is I want people to think. I don't want it just to be, I want it to be easy to listen to, but I don't want it just to be background fun, whatever kind of, with everything. I think it's really important for people to think. It's very easy to turn a blind eye in society. So
because you know, I was listening to your music and I was trying to place it because it's so authentic. It's like you're not unhappy, but it's like a pain is there.
yeah, I mean, I would say I'm kind of on both ends of the spectrum. I'm like unbelievably cynical and then also unbelievably positive. So it kind of the two things kind of contradict each other, and I guess it's kind of confusing. But I mean, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to go into music was because songs, other people's songs, helped me so much with my emotions and things that were happening when I was growing up, and writing my own songs, because I've been writing pretty much since I could write. And writing, you know, it's such a good way to get emotions out and stuff. So and I think it's so important when you hear an artist and you can hear that there's real pain and emotion in that song. It just, I feel like it's authentic and it's real, and that's what music's supposed to be about. So I try and do that as much as I possibly can.
And like I was telling you, our age difference, you are so universal that you grab people from the inside with your work. You have such amazing gifts. Is there other people in your family that have these gifts and talents that you have? Or did they just put them all inside of you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, my family is incredible. My sister, we're both actually, we're both quite creative. Like, she's an artist, and like she likes to do like designing things, like clothes and stuff, which is, you know, I'm not good at all. So we definitely, I would say we kind of balance each other out, I guess. But she's really good at like writing and stuff, like, so, and like description, like English. When I was writing my book, I would give her it and she would say, change this to this, and she would like, she would be my like projector.
Yeah, so she's a good editor.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much she was, yeah. And I'm
Wow.
writing a new book at the moment, and I'm kind of talking about it all through with her, because I just, me and my sister have a very, very close relationship. So we, any idea I have, we work very well together. So if I have an idea, she typically makes it better.
You make sure I get a hold of that book. I can't fathom that you can be insane. I can't. I mean, it is such a perfect book.
Well, I mean,
we're going to talk about that later, but I just want people to just be in touch with this young soul that's really an old soul as far as accomplishment, because it's just so sweet to the spirit to see a young person not waste their life. You're not wasting no energy.
No.
How many animals do you have?
I have, I mean, I've always grown up around animals, and I've kind of moved houses a lot. So what I class as my animals is kind of fishy, but I have 3 dogs at my dad's house, 3 dogs at my nana's house, a cat at my dad's. We live on a farm. So I have 8 horses outside my house as well. So yes, just everything is animals, everything.
And another thing, what was you doing riding horses?
Yeah. I used to be an affiliated show jumper, which is kind of like a professional, when I was younger in juniors. And I mean, because I've been riding pretty much since I could sit up. My mum didn't waste any time. So I've been around horses forever. And what was it, probably about 5 years ago now, I gave up horse riding to pursue writing and music, just because I realized that kind of was more the route I wanted to go down. But I still have a pony, I still ride, and it's just nicer to not be in the competitive zone, because that can always be pretty pressured and you don't really enjoy it as much. And that's not just with horse riding, that's with everything. I think I found that with music as well. I need to really anchor myself and get back to why I love it. Otherwise I can just get wrapped up in everything else.
Okay, in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, what kind of kid were you, like, especially in school? Did you fit in anywhere?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's actually no one's asked me that. Yeah, no, I did. I mean, I had a lot of friends here and there. I was obviously horse riding kind of took me out a lot, but no, I mean I've always been a pretty loud, opinionated, vocal person, so it wasn't difficult for me to kind of start conversations with people who may have been a little bit more shy or something.
So how did you get interested in serial killers?
I've always had a pretty dark sense of humor. Um, I pretty much can find humor in everything. I think that's partly my cynicism crossed with my optimism, just kind of two things overlapping. And I'm also a philosophy student, and so I have very strong opinions about morals and everything, and some of them are quite controversial, which comes out in the book. And I mean, serial killers, psychologists are just fascinated with them, and I understand why, because obviously the majority of people don't understand why they do what they do. So, and people are all about trying to understand something and find patterns and everything. So they're just, and everyone's different as well. Every single one is different, and to me that actually kind of proves my point, that I kind of just want to justify for myself, in the sense that, you know, you can't really label someone as a serial killer and that's all they are, and everything. You know, they're a person, and every single one's different. And I don't know, I wanted to explore and research them more, and it's really difficult to explain. They're just, they're just,
Well,
I
you
mean,
know it though. That's the thing about it, because we're talking about her book, Insane. Awesome book.
thank you.
Awesome book, because it's a thriller, action thriller, but it's so much more than that. It's a psychological philosophy. It's definitely mental. It's dramatic. It is just so many things, and it makes you search yourself. Because, like, the main character, at first I knew she was a she, but then it was times it seemed like she was a man. Avery, right?
Avery, yeah.
Yeah, she was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, she was actually based off me. So not the killing part, don't worry. um yeah, no, she kind of all the exaggerated traits of me. I mean, she's kind of like, I guess it's partly an alter ego, partly like a kindred soul. I mean, she's just, I mean, I wrote the book because I wanted to get people's stories out there, kind of the underdog stories, essentially, because serial killers obviously passed off a lot of the time, and you don't actually get to know them. And obviously, a lot of serial killers, a lot of people wouldn't even think about that. But that's essentially the same as someone else who's being written off for a different reason. And I just wanted to tell someone's story that I find it so frustrating when people just judge people just because, not necessarily to the extent of killing, obviously, but for doing something that they wouldn't necessarily do and act in a way that they wouldn't. And it's just, and so I wanted to create a character that was interesting. You could latch onto her and you could like her, but she wasn't like a sympathy character. She wasn't a sob story. She had grit to her. She was interesting. She was empowered. But obviously she then had this hobby that was killing, and you just had to kind of balance, well, can I still like her even though she does that?
She was something else too, though, because she was consistent. And to use fairy tale characters,
Yeah.
I was so outdone when you bought a mermaid. You use a mermaid. I was like, I'm trying to figure out, when you're writing, do you have a vision, or do it just fall on the paper? Or do you have like a set, diagram? How did you create so many different, like the police officer, they wanted to have children, they couldn't have children, and then the dog come up, because the owner got killed. I mean,
Yeah.
do you come up with this as an outline, or do you just flow with it? Or do you know exactly where you're going? Because you didn't miss anything. It was like watching a movie, reading your book.
I mean, I actually feel like I can't really take credit for it, because I knew I wanted to get from A to B, and I knew Avery's story. I knew roughly how I wanted it to go. like I said, you know, I knew how to get from A to B, but everything else pretty much just happened. It just fell together. So I had a long list of kind of specific scenes, not even chapters, not events, just specific scenes I wanted to have at certain points in the story, that would tie everything together, but I didn't know necessarily how I would get there and how it would be interwoven. And it just, as I was writing it, it just kind of worked and happened. And I'm so happy for that it worked out like that as well, because it made it such a more exciting journey for me as a writer, not necessarily, you know, growing with these characters, and not necessarily knowing exactly where they're going to go, because obviously they don't know where they're going to go yet.
It's like that was a screenplay. I mean, different scenes. You knew when to go back to certain episodes that you was developing and when to move forward. It was just phenomenal. And I tell you, the twists and turns to find out. God, I can't even talk about it.
I mean, the twists I had from the beginning. I knew what was going to happen at the end. And one thing that was really important for me, as a reader, was I always found that a book or a movie will have a twist, a big plot twist, because they all do. And you'd be surprised by that, and then you pretty much can tell how it's going to play out after that twist. And I really, really wanted, from kind of, you know, the last 30 pages, I think it must be, for, you know, when the twists happen, for you to think that that's the last one, and then you know how it's going to play out. But then there's another one and another one and another one up until the end. The balance of it being not confusing and having enough twists was definitely tricky, but just, you know, as a oh, sorry, my dogs are barking. Just as a reader, I was like, I wanted to write something that I hadn't seen in books, or that I hadn't thought was like done enough necessarily. Obviously, I haven't read every book in the world, so I can't speak for everything. But kind of like Gone Girl, obviously, Gone Girl has like loads and loads of twists and turns.
And then in the end, that was awesome how you wrapped that book up, and you actually educated us with psychology.
Are you talking about like the post story bit?
Oh my God, that was awesome too.
Yeah, that was really important to me to include, because obviously I wanted it to be like a psychological thriller that people could just read and enjoy. But also if they wanted to learn a little bit more about it, because I did so much research on it, and these characters meant so much to me and what I based it on, and I wanted to give them a little bit more kind of development, because obviously, you know, as a writer you're developing the characters outside of the story, but I kind of wanted to show also how they develop to the reader. So yeah, that was just really important to me to get that psychology in, so people could think about it if they wanted to.
And you know, like you said, there were 4 different examples of a serial killer. Could you touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, so this is going to test my memory now. There's missionary, visionary, power and control, and thrill seeker. And only one of those, the visionary, is clinically insane. So visionaries are typically like schizophrenic people who you'll label them a visionary if they basically, in a very basic form, if they said that they had voices in their head telling them to do it. Whereas you have, you know, power control serial killers who are kind of like Ted Bundy, who liked the control of having someone's life in their hands. And even though some people can say that's crazy, really, I mean, a lot of people do jobs because it's a powerful job or something. Like a lot of police officers. I mean, my mum's in the police force, so I know kind of, you know, and her, for example, she kind of likes the police force because it gives you that power and that control. And that doesn't mean she's crazy, but because as soon as you label them a serial killer, you immediately make that association when it really shouldn't be there. And then you have a mission-oriented one, where they kind of want to wipe out all of a certain type of person, kind of like Jack the Ripper. And that's more based off, like, I guess, like PTSD a lot of the time, and trauma that you've just developed.
That was the visionary one. That's where you connect
the missionary one.
You connect PTSD to that?
I mean, Personally, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's actually being connected, but I personally think that a lot of the time, these people, this certain type of serial killer think that they're doing the right thing wholeheartedly. So, they think that, they want to rid the world of prostitutes or rid the world of homosexuals because they think that they're doing the world a favor. So that for me I think is usually based off more trauma and like how they've grown up. Maybe they've been abused or something that's led to that. Obviously that is making a sweeping statement. It's not the case for everyone. But then you have thrill seekers, which is actually one of the most common types, and is what Avery is, where they just do it because they enjoy it, like it's a hobby. They enjoy the thrill, they enjoy the chase. I mean, I always use the example of something like horse riding and golfing. Like, I couldn't think of anything more dull than going golfing. And I love horse riding because I like the adrenaline. It's thrilling, but golfing's more of a patience kind of thing. And it's like, it's just two hobbies. You don't think one person's crazy because they don't love golfing, or vice versa. So it's like, to her, it's just, killing is just a hobby, and just because personally I wouldn't do it doesn't mean that she's crazy or wrong.
Yeah, I was checking that out. You keep emphasizing on, a lot of people think that a serial killer had a bad childhood or experienced some kind of trauma, but you are actually trying to get people to realize this is almost like a fetish.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, I guess, but I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, a fetish, like, everything can be a fetish. It's just, everyone labels negative and positive words with things that they think are right and wrong and negative and positive, and when actually they are essentially on an equal playing field if you're being completely objective rather than being emotional. And one thing I've just thought, when I've spoken to people about like my morals and what I think of morality and stuff, they'll say like, because if you saw a serial killer in the paper, and it said, oh, this person murdered 10 people or whatever, you're like, oh, that's awful, they must be crazy. That's the first thing someone will think. Is they're not normal, you think they must be crazy. And then it will be, oh, they had a really bad upbringing, like their parents were divorced and they were abused and stuff, and you're like, oh, that explains why they turn into serial killers. But actually it's not a cause and effect situation, because otherwise everyone who was abused would turn into a serial killer, or everyone who had divorced parents would turn into a serial killer. It's just and probably, yes, that trauma would have molded their path, but just like any experience in anyone's life molds a path. But it doesn't mean that it's singling out and kind of like putting them in a box, but really everyone is the same. It's just doing different things with the experiences you have.
And then you ask us, could you love a serial killer? Would you turn them in if you love them?
Yeah, I mean, that's another aspect of the book that I really wanted to explore, was the idea of when you have a relationship with someone, how do your morals get twisted depending on your own experiences? And if you have a relationship with someone and a connection, do you let what they do slide? And I mean, there's been so many cases of mothers, especially because obviously they have a strong bond with their kids, helping their kids who have murdered someone out and giving them an alibi. A lot of, mainly family, I guess, because that is obviously one of the strongest bonds. And it's just, and a lot of people would probably, I mean, a lot of people, I feel like, I mean, everyone can't really put themselves in that situation, because it is like, oh, my dad turning out to be a serial killer is a pretty big thing that is kind of pretty incomprehensible. But a lot of people would still love that person regardless of what they've done, because that's the whole point of unconditional love. So then you have to wonder, if morals are flexible when it comes to emotion, then why can't they be flexible in other situations?
So, I was trying to wrap my brain around how you see morality, because you said there's no such thing as a universal morality.
Yeah.
So how do you think we're surviving? Do you see like in the United States, people feel like, the head of our government, the morality just dropped tremendously. Do you feel that there's some value to morality? And if it's not universal, how do you come to a place to find it has value?
I mean, I'm not going to say my opinion is fact, because it's not, definitely, when it comes to morality and philosophy, but there can't be a universal morality, because if there was, we would be using it. I've studied so many theories. Every single one has a flaw. Every single one has ifs and buts and what ifs and different scenarios and exceptions. There isn't. And having said that, I'm completely aware that you couldn't run a society, on no morals. So when it comes to like social morality and stuff, I think I'm not in a position to say if we're doing it right or wrong, because there will always be a naysayer, regardless of how society is run. So I think actually at this present moment, with regards to morality, we're probably doing the best we can do across the board in society. But for me, it's more about the individual. And individually, I mean, it's natural to judge people, because that's just a survival instinct. That's an animalistic instinct, because that's how you judge a situation, if you're going to survive or not. So I don't think we should stop judging people. I just think it's really important to be self-aware and know where that judgment is coming from, and knowing that judgment isn't a fact. It's an opinion, and it can usually cloud how you act towards that person or towards that situation. So it's more about the individual and affecting people on that basis.
Taking responsibility for your space, bringing a good vibration is pretty much what you're saying, the best vibration. Okay, so nowhere in the book, nowhere does it seem to have a place with religion in your life. Had you done any research on religion, or have you concluded its place among, morality and philosophy and people getting to a better place? How do you see religion?
I mean, I'm personally not religious. I see everything as equal. So a fly to a human is completely equal. So I just don't agree with the idea that there is a higher power, because that obviously involves superiority. So I'm not religious. I also don't like the idea of following rules and guidelines and stuff, but that's obviously just my personality, and that's very personal. And it is partly because of my own morals. But I think religion can be really great for people, because it does provide a lot of moral guidelines. Obviously, on the flip side, as with anything, it can provide a lot of immoral guidelines as well, depending on how it's interpreted. And that's just a case with everything. So it just depends, obviously, on how you yourself view it. But when it comes to morality, I think that religion should take sections or advice from morality, rather than morality taking advice from religion.
Oh, I like that.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's probably where I stand on that idea.
So you make me want to question you. Ooh. You're deep. I like that. So what's your definition of love?
Oh, God. You know what? I have no idea. I don't think there is a definition of love. I think love is the same as morality, in the sense that there is no one experiences it in the same way. No one expresses it in the same way. I mean, I would say I have unconditional love for my dog. She's definitely like my kindred soul, and that's probably the closest I've come to like the idea of like true love, but I mean, I personally don't have a lot of empathy. It's something I have to. A lot of people have like instinctively have empathy. I'm one of those people who doesn't. It's something I have to practice and make a conscious effort to apply. So That's actually probably one of the reasons as well why I'm interested in serial killers. Because I don't think I'm crazy, but I can relate to some of their tendencies. But that's what we already talked about. But no, what I mean is, so when it comes to kind of social love and society and stuff, that's something that I have to actively practice. And that has probably been one of the things that's led me to quite a cynical opinion that everyone is kind of just quite selfish, and no one does anything for other people. They only do things for themselves, in the sense that, so I don't necessarily care about doing something, or I don't instinctively care if a random stranger is crying, because I don't know them. I don't have that instinctive, probably not a good example, but like, I don't have that instinctive empathy.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, and it's also, it's not my business, but another one of my friends would probably, wouldn't feel okay if she walked off and didn't do anything. And so the way I see that is like, well, the reason she would go up to that person is because it makes her feel better for going to see if that person's okay, whereas with me, it doesn't either way. And that's probably a bad example, but yeah, so it's like, so I just think that everyone's really doing stuff for themselves. So when it comes, and I think obviously people love people, I think, I don't think that that's not real, but I'll do something for my family or my dogs, because if I don't, that would hurt me emotionally. I think it's the egoism. It's I haven't done any studying because I've been on a gap year, so I can't for the life of me remember the philosophers. I think it's David Hume that kind of talks about that kind of stuff. He'd probably be able to explain it a lot better than me. But yeah, I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, to be honest.
I don't think you did, because you make me kind of think about what I was thinking when I was reading your book and listening to your music. I was like, this is really a unique experience for me, because even though she's giving it a lot, your giving comes off with your authenticity. But at the same time, I sense alienation. And I was trying to figure out, how did she twist this in together and still have fans? I mean, you have fans, because I think it's because you don't let people settle anywhere. You leave them still moving, you know what I mean? Still, like you said, thinking and reevaluating themselves some kind of way. I think that's a gift, because like I said, I sense the alienation, but I sense the giving at the same time. It's like you in this bubble and all this stuff is coming through your bubble.
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate, actually. I mean, it is very much kind of the two sides of the spectrum, which is hard to kind of balance a little bit. I mean, I am individually a very, very cynical person, but then I also care so much, especially about animals. I mean, that's definitely where my heart lies the most. But I mean, yeah, I think thinking is the most important thing, questioning things rather than just walking with the crowd and going through what you should do. And, so most people, think you should go to school, go to uni, get a job and get a pension and die. And when really, then you're not really getting, living life to your fullest potential if you're not questioning things, even questioning yourself. I mean, I've obviously got controversial views. I question myself probably more than anyone has. And I just think that's just so important. And I don't think, especially with music, because I think books haven't quite gone down that route yet of just being mainstream and for entertainment purposes. It's still a lot of kind of thinking stuff. But music, I just find a lot of it is just easy to listen to, background noise, that is just kind of, it's not really using the medium as I think it could be.
That one song I was sharing with you, was it called Deep On?
The Deep End.
Deep End. I've listened to that song a couple of times, and I'm thinking to myself, this sounds like an old soul, and this is a young woman singing here. And so in my mind, because, I feel things, I kept trying to figure out what was going on with you in life that caused you to, wail that song? Because that's pretty much what you did. And I could not figure out, did somebody break her heart? Did somebody die? Did somebody disrespect her? Did somebody abuse her? I could not just narrow it down to the basics of life that could cause a person to go that deep in soul to put that out in such a beautiful song as you did. And to this day, I said, I'm going to listen to it again because I can't figure out what was going on with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely not had like the typical life, like the typical quintessential family life. People have had it a lot worse than me, and also a lot better. So it evens out either side. I think I've always been a very closed and guarded person. I've never really let my emotions out apart from through music. So the times that I sit down and write is just when just the gates just open and everything just comes out. And because I've always thought a lot, I've always been probably, oversensitive to situations, kind of overthought everything. And so it's kind of like me gritting my teeth until I can sing and just get it all out. And I mean, yeah, I remember writing that song actually.
What motivated you though?
I mean, I've struggled a lot with mental illnesses and depression and anxiety and stuff. And I think at this point, I didn't quite understand what it was I was going through. And I just kind of didn't feel anything. And that was more terrifying to me than the idea of feeling sad or happy. And I remember I just shut my room and just had my back against my door and was just playing around. And it was just, just basically thinking that the world was going to end and everything was awful. And a lot of my life, I felt like I was always on at the end of my tether. Mainly, I think because I hadn't really understood what was going on in my own head. And that was kind of
so unique.
Pardon?
I said, because you're so unique. Your perception of life is so unique. That's why I said I couldn't imagine you fitting in school. I was just feeling so much of your soul. And I said, you are just so amazing in your placing of things. And I feel like you helping a lot of people, because a lot of times people can't explain themselves. They can't express themselves. And when you do, it has a vibration to it that reaches people who can't explain what's happening to them.
Yeah, I mean, I
appreciate you sharing what you just shared, because you didn't just lay down and just curl up into a ball and just turned your back on existence. You unraveled that ball, you turned it into a sunlight.
Thank you.
I mean, like I said, I can't imagine you being insane and writing another book, because you are so articulate and you're so detailed. And you're, like I said, you're just raw, but yet you're gentle. It's just, you're special.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I can't imagine that people can actually get you, because you're so ahead of your time. I think you were born ahead of your time. Yeah. Because you remind me of something that's really phenomenal. And you still haven't touched the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to be doing once you understand that you are so on point of your destiny. You have what I call a calling on your life. You're affecting people in ways you have no idea. You have no idea of the impact. You realize the main thing that's going on in the world today is mental illness.
Yeah.
And you're showing people how complex it is, how powerful it is, how logical it is. You're not making people feel like they're not normal. Just like you were saying, the definition of normal, you can't actually define it.
Yeah.
And, I want you to share with us too, how you define insanity in contrast to what we've been taught, doing the same thing over and over again. I had never, ever heard of any other definition until you gave
Yeah.
us a definition. Would you give us that definition that you gave?
So the dictionary definition of insane is to be in a state of mind that prevents you from normal behavior. Yeah. I haven't said it in a while, so I'm forgetting
Wow.
now.
But that's it.
In a state of mind that prevents normal perception, behavior, or action. And it's when I read that, because the only definition I'd heard as well is the repeating the same thing over again and again, which is just so inaccurate. When you look up that definition and you see all the articles about it, and so many people have just completely de-raveled it. But obviously that's not what's publicized. That's not what gets shown. But this definition, I was just like, that's just incredible to me that it can have such a vague definition, and yet people throw that word around so much. I mean, essentially, if that's the definition of insane, that it being in a state of mind that prevents normal perception, you're insane when you're tired, you're insane when you're drunk, when you're hungry, because you're in a state of mind where you're not thinking and normal. You can't even define normal. I mean, it's so frustrating to me because it's just so ambiguous, and it's just so arbitrary, and yet people use it as fact when they're labeling something or someone or a situation.
But that's what I'm saying. You have so much inside of you. It's like it fascinates me how you can sort all this information and vibration, because I sense vibration with you, that you can contain it and utilize it for better, and you do a great job at it.
Thank you.
I just can't fathom somebody your age getting you.
Yeah. I mean, I have always been told I'm an old, so I've always got on with adults better in general.
But it's okay though that they don't. They can still love you, but they just don't get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't forget that, because people don't get you because you are ahead of your time, that don't mean they don't love you.
I hardly understand me, so I don't blame them.
You don't even look for it. And another thing you got me in tune with, I was mentioning earlier, I never heard miscarriages of justice.
Yeah.
Never heard that term before.
I mean, it's not something that's publicized very much. It's something I knew happened and I knew about, but I didn't know about it in detail until I was researching it for this book. And I mean, basically, it's when people go to prison for something that they didn't do. Most of they're prosecuted for something that they're innocent of. And when I was explaining it to my mum and my nana, actually, which I feel like they are quite perfect examples of what effect it can have on these people, is, so I say, oh, well, it's basically when people go to prison, they haven't done it, and then they're found, so this miscarriages of justice organization is when they fight for people's cases who have been put in prison, and then they find them innocent and they exonerate them. And both my mum and my nana went, oh, well, they must have done something. They must have done something wrong. And that isn't just their opinion. A lot of people think like that, and are so ready to label people as innocent or guilty based on what the media says, what they're shown. Not even, I mean, and really no one can know in any criminal situation apart from the people who were directly involved. And then these people are put away because most of the time people are more concerned with comforting the victim or the victim's family than and getting closure and getting the case closed than making sure that you've got the right person. And when you don't get the right person, or someone's cried wolf, that would just derail their life, because not only are they then put in jail for something that they didn't do, if they eventually find a way to get out of it, because I feel like the justice system works in a way that once it's confirmation bias, it's, oh, well, circumstantial evidence or whatever, people will go off, instead of the innocent until proven guilty, people will go off guilty until proven innocent, really. And people, it's more difficult to, be shown innocent than it is to be shown guilty of something. And so when you're put away and if you're lucky enough to be shown innocent of something that you didn't do, then you get out and you're tarnished for the rest of your life for something that you were just, wrong place, wrong time. It's like I say in at the end of the book when I'm talking about the miscarriage of justice, what if you just went to work or went for a run and you came home and the police are in your house and you're put away because you don't have an alibi because you went for a run or something. And it's just, it could and no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them ever. And then when it does, obviously it's so surreal, and even after it all, you're still tarnished and you probably won't be able to get a job. You can't work. Your entire life has been ruined essentially, and your family's lives. And it's not publicized enough what happens and how not messed up, what's the word? I'm just going to use messed up because I can't think of the right word, like messed up the justice system is. Obviously nothing can be perfect. It's just the world we live in. But the amount of people who are wrongfully convicted is not publicized enough.
And what's the name of that organization? Because you donate to that organization your work, right?
Yeah. It's Miscarriages of Justice Organization UK is the one I'm donating to.
That is really sad too. Like you said, it could be anybody. It don't even matter your status in life or anything else.
Yeah.
And they don't even care that they messed up your life. They still gonna go on to the next person.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone has an opinion. Everyone. Like the Madeleine McCann, kidnapping, that's probably the most famous abduction ever. Everyone has a conspiracy theory. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks that this person did it or this person did it. And people are so quick to judge and so quick to label that judgment as fact when they don't know the fact. And like I said, it's completely fair enough to judge something and a situation and someone. But I think it's so important to be self-aware of that and not let that cloud your actions and how you think about that person, because it is a snap judgment, and then it melts in your head and it becomes fact when it's just not. And it can really obviously have a very long-lasting impact.
So basically, what do you want people to walk away from in saying your book?
I want people to have a more open mind, and not basically not judge someone because they wouldn't act in a certain way that person did. Not, I go to the extreme of killing because obviously extreme situations provoke the best response and get you thinking the most. But even something like plastic surgery, right, that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on. If someone personally wouldn't get plastic surgery and they see someone who has it, they'll go, oh, that's horrible, that's disgusting. And it's like, just be more self-aware, be more open-minded. Just because you wouldn't do something, even if it's superficial or on a moral level, doesn't mean that person is crazy or is not normal or is a bad person. It just means that they aren't exactly the same as you.
So if anybody wanted to get your book or contact you and also your music career, how would they get in touch with you?
Pretty much if you type my name into either Google or Amazon or anything, it's Hollie Thubron, HOLLIE, and then Thubron, THUBRON. All my stuff will come up. No one else luckily has my name. And then all the links as well to Insane will be on the Insane Novel website, insanenovel.co.uk. So hopefully it's all relatively easy to find.
But I strongly encourage people to read Insane.
Thank you.
That book is phenomenal. Even though you don't talk much about spirituality, it's a lot of spirituality in that book.
Yeah.
Even though you don't talk about it, it's a lot. And it stays with you. And to me, it can possibly make you a better person.
Yeah, in some twisted reverse psychology kind of way.
It really is alive. That's one way to describe it too. But anyway, Hollie, you are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a truth to remember you by.
A truth? Oh God. Is this something that's like a secret or something?
A truth that we can always remember you by. It could be philosophical.
Oh, okay, fine. You can do absolutely anything you put your mind to as long as you put the effort in.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming on our show today.
That's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
You got to let me know when you write another book.
Yeah, hopefully it will be out early next year if all things go well.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.